Hi, welcome to Crafting with Kimberly. I'm Kimberly Canali, and today we are going to make puzzle piece jewelry or hangers. This is a great way to be able to use up puzzle pieces that you might have lying around after you've done the puzzle, but what a cute way to add words and beads. It's almost unlimited as to what you can do with some of these puzzle pieces. It's really only limited to your imagination. These are some jewelry pieces that I have made. These are going to be pins. I'm going to put a pin back on them. This is a necklace. So you can see how detailed you can get puzzle pieces and beads. And another necklace. And if you're not into jewelry, because that is a little eclectic, if you don't want it to be jewelry, you can do the same technique, but then hang them, connect them together and hang them to make either just a little wall hanger, a dangle, or even a bookmark. So let's turn the camera around and let's see what supplies we need. For the supplies, you're going to need some puzzle pieces. I have found that kids' puzzles are fantastic because they're a lot bigger pieces. You can see the size, lots of fun, great colors, but mainly for me, it's the size of them. If you're really wanting to do collage with words, the bigger puzzle pieces are fantastic. So get some puzzles. Another fun thing about kids' puzzles is they also come in shapes. This is a round soccer ball shaped puzzle, and I loved the black and white colors, but the pieces are really cool. You can really get some fun shapes out of them, and that really gives you some unique pieces to use. Also, if you're doing a puzzle, do the puzzle, and if you want to use it afterwards, kind of keep it together or take it apart in chunks, because this way, if I want to have just a green set of puzzle pieces, I've already got them all put together and I know what pieces are which. Same thing with like the browns and the reds. And when you're looking for your puzzle pieces, you want to look for your shapes. If you have a flat bottom like that one, you can put holes all the way across the bottom and have dangles, or you can have dangles coming off of the ones that have a curved edge. So you want to look for shapes. Also want to have if you want to do the collage, you want to have some magazines. Fashion magazines are great because not only do you get fantastic colors like that you can use, but you also get a lot of the different words that you can cut out. So I like to use the fashion magazines. I have a tendency to go through and I cut out things that I like and words that I want to keep, although no one else seemed to mind. You know, expressions that are fun that would look good on a puzzle piece. Sometimes they're too big for the puzzles. That's why the kids' puzzles are nice for that. So cut out a bunch of words if you like. You can see for this example, I've got a piece of that soccer ball puzzle. They're very similar in color. I'm going to turn these into earrings. And for these, I cut out the words, time to look on the bright side. So I'm going to glue those like that and then probably do some beadwork. I will put my holes here to attach my earring posts, and then I will put holes here to also have some dangles. So that's a fun way to do it. I also took these 3 puzzle pieces and turned them into a bracelet. And it says, My Little Secret. So that will go around the wrist that way. So that's a fun idea. For a bracelet, you're going to need something to clasp it. I prefer lobster clasps. I like those. Or you can purchase, for necklaces, you can purchase already made necklaces that already have the closure, the lobster clasp, and some chain on them. This would also be the same thing for a bracelet, but smaller. They also come pre-made like that. But you would also be able to just add chain and a clasp if you're using a chain necklace, such as this one. Here was my chain, jump rings, and a lobster clasp that was put on that. Jump rings come in all sorts of different sizes and colors. They come in silver, they come in gold, they come in bronze, rose gold, so depending on your style. But those are jump rings. So you can see all the different sizes. These are circular, normal, round jump rings. This is what you find in most of your hobby stores. But they also come in an oval shape. The oval shape are very nice to use when you're working on bracelets. Even though I did use the regular circle ones on this particular set, an oval will lay very nicely and lay a little flatter. So those are nice to use as well. When you are working with jump rings, you normally will use a set of needle nose pliers. Depending on how thick your jump ring is, you may only need one pair of pliers, and then you would be able to use your hands to close it, or you would use two, hold it with one, use the other. When you are opening a jump ring, you always want to go with a back and forth method. So you hold both sides and then open it this way or that way. You never want to open a jump ring this way, because if you do, you will never get it tight enough to close up again, and you'll always have a little gap. So again, let me show that to you with the jump ring. I'll hold it with just one pair of pliers and my fingers. So when you're ready to open a jump ring, hold one end, hold the other, and open it either towards you or away from you. And then when you go to close it, you kind of wiggle it together and push it closed. So never open them that way. So for these, because I have dangles and things, I do use jump rings. You also can use what's called a head pin. These are straight, kind of long bars. Try to get that up close. Long bars that have a little stopper at the end. That is what you can put your beads on, just as like I did with these, to make my little dangles that hang down. These are also used to make earrings, but you would like to get some head pins. They come with a flat back like I just had in my hand. They also come with a circle at the end. These are called eye pins. So these you can attach a jump ring to the top, add your beads and finish your end, or go the opposite way. Add your beads this way, finish it up, and then you can also add a jump ring with another dangle down that way. So these are nice to have too. I also suggest maybe having some scrapbook paper to finish the backs. The other nice thing about using magazines is looking at the colors the piece that I'm going to be working on today is this one. And I liked the background for that. So if you want to not have your puzzle piece be the cardboard backing like most puzzle pieces are, look for colors that are similar or even contrasting, and that gives you a very beautiful background. Also, as I said, I was using needle nose pliers. It's nice to also have round nose pliers. You can see the difference. Needle nose are pointy, round nose are circular, and these are used to make rings. You don't have to have them, but they're very nice. If you're doing basic jewelry, they're nice tools. You can get sets of jewelry tools, and they have everything you need all together. So those are nice. If you're using wire, sometimes you need wire clippers, but also depending on the size of the wire, a good pair of scissors will work as well. I'm using 28 and 24 gauge wire, and a regular pair of scissors will cut into that. I also have a tool which it's come in handy. It's a leather making tool, and you're supposed to be able to punch holes in your leather, but I've been able to use this for so many different things, and this is the perfect tool to be able to use to punch holes in my puzzle pieces. But if you did not want to go out and buy a specific tool just for that, what also works is get a nail and a hammer, and you can put it wherever you want your hole, hammer it down. If you have an awl, AWL, that's a pointy tool as well. You can use that and pound it down. So you don't need special tools because there's a tool out there for everything. And I'm also using a glue stick for this particular project because it's paper to cardboard. A glue stick works beautifully. You can use a glue gun. For my purposes, I'm going to use a glue stick because it lays smoothly. If you were going to do all of your wire work and then decide, I don't want that to show, what I would then do is use a glue gun to cover that, glue your piece of paper down, and then cut it away. You would have to be very careful not to cut into your wire if you do it that way. Also, it is very difficult to try to draw it and cut it out. You can see 2 attempts that I have made here. That looks great from this end, and that would look beautiful. But when I turn it around, you can see there is still a lot of white area showing. So scissors are very hard to cut that. Same thing with this. It fits nicely there. But then when I turn it around, you're still going to see a lot of the white pieces showing. So really an X-Acto knife is really what you need to do that. But you have to be very careful because you don't want the X-Acto knife to nick the wire. So I suggest just embracing the wire on the back. You really don't need to have a backing. But if you want to, that's how I would cover it. I would use, again, glue it down. When you're gluing your pieces, you want to glue it not front ways, because then that would be backwards. You want to turn your puzzle piece over, glue it down. I started to cut this one, but you would glue it down. So front side of your piece up, front side of your scrapbook paper down, glue it down, then use your X-Acto knife to cut around it. Because again, like I said, it is very difficult to try to cut it out with scissors. I had traced it and then started to cut, and you can see you just can't get close enough. So the best way, glue it down, cut it with an X-Acto knife. So looking at your puzzle pieces, these are a couple different ones that I had. I took this piece, and just by looking at it, sometimes it helps to turn it around, turn it to the cardboard side so you can really not be distracted by the colors once you've chosen the colors you like. But turn it around and say, well, what way do I want to hold it? I liked it this way. I put 3 holes at the bottom there and a hole at the top. For just this plain white piece, I just wanted to use a hole up at the top and a hole at the bottom. You can see on this piece, I'll turn it around so you can see it better. On this piece, I did holes all the way down the side and the bottom and over here. Took wire, wrapped my beads around, and then made dangles. So it's a lot of fun to see what you can do with all of those pieces. So how do we get started? I am going to use this puzzle piece. Again, I said that I was going to be using, this particular wire is 24 gauge wire. Light and thin enough to be able to bend with your fingers. You don't want to bend this wire too much, because if you do, it will have a tendency to snap and break. So this is a really pretty copper color. You can see it also comes in darker colors. This, I believe, is a 26 or 28 gauge because it's so much thinner. So you want to get some wire. I'm going to just undo some, snip it. And I like to use container lids. They're nice to be able to put your beads in so they're not rolling all over. I'm also working on a rubber silicone mat. This was a painting mat, but I found it really works well. In case you drop a bead, it helps it from not rolling away. So for this set, I'm going to have 2 dangles, which I've pre-put on, but I'll show you how to put them on. I just wanted to make sure that they were there. And I'm going to use these beads. So I'm going to start with my wire. And I am just going to string my beads on. I'm going to leave myself a good amount of wire on both sides. So I'm going to kind of put that right in the middle. So I'm going to pick up my piece. I want those in the middle. I'm going to push it down with my finger. So the wires is bent down because the beads are round and it's sticking up. So this way it gets it flat down to my piece. Put it where I want it. And then I'm just going to fold the wire to the back and maybe bring it around. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I want that lifted higher. So I make sure before I fold my wire, I have my beads where I want them. And now it's just a matter of playing. I have both to the back. And now I'm just going to wrap. And you just look at it and you say, well, where do I want these to go? I want to make sure that that's kind of arched. So I want to keep that there. I'm basically holding it. Bringing that wire across. What I can do is take my pliers and put a little kink. I'm going to just hold it, bend it down a bit. That gives a nice little zigzag, holds it nice and tight, and gives it some interest. So I'm bringing the wire down. I think I want to wrap it around that. I'm going to bring it across. I want to wrap it around that. So it's symmetrical. Keep that one in the back. Now let's start wrapping this other one. Again, I want to keep that where I want it. Was moving around because I hadn't wrapped that one yet. I'm going to bring this one up. I think I'm going to bring that across. It's already got a nice little bend there, so I'm going to accentuate the bend. You can even just use your fingers. You don't have to have the pliers. Just making sure you're kind of holding it because it does want to move around. Fold it there. I do want to use my pliers because I want to give a more of a tighter wave. So now I have two waves going. And there's no right or wrong with this. It's just a matter of moving it around to where you want it. And getting it tight enough, which I didn't do, right here. I want this on top and that on the bottom. So I just need to hold that, bring it down around. And I'm pushing it with my hands to make sure it's tight where I want it. I think I want to bring this around. I'm going to bring it down, put it around there. I'm going to take another V. And then now I can be finished. I'm going to take a little bit of that wire. I'm going to push it up through one of the wires, trying not to move it, but just to anchor it a bit. Making sure I didn't move anything on the front. I'm going to push anchor this one. That's when the pliers come in handy because you can grab it. All right, I have those anchored. I want, before I do anything else, I just want to go back to my front, make sure everything is where I want it. I'm going to move this down a little bit. Just twist it a bit. Okay. I have pretty much everything where I want it. So to finish, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these two pieces. There's thousands of different ways to finish these, but I'm going to just twist the wire. I'm going to connect it together. So I've connected those pieces. I'm going to cut it. And then I'm going to take my pliers And I'm just going to curl it around. You can do that with your fingers, with a pencil. You don't have to have the tools. And then I'm going to flatten that down. So now my wire is connected. I did move it a little bit, so again, I want to just come back in with my pliers, make that jagged line that I want. And I've got it connected. I'm going to take my tool because I want there to be some dangle. So I'm going to take my tool, put it where I want. Again, you can use a hammer and a nail, but look at how nice that works. Hammer and nail will do the same thing. Put my holes in. And I'm also going to put one up at the top because I want this to be a necklace. You don't want to go too close to the top because then it could rip off. So you want to kind of go in, leave yourself a space. So now I have my holes ready to go. So to do a dangle, this is my example of what I'm going to add on. I am using this coppery brass color, but I did not have the eye pin that I showed you before that had the circle on it. I only had just the regular head pin. So what I'm going to do for that, I have these neat little teardrop shapes that I'm going to use. And it has the hole at the top. So I'm going to fit that in. And you can see I couldn't do that because if I held it like this, the way I'm going to attach it, that would obviously be up in the air. But I want it to lay like this. So I'm going to take my pliers, put it right up against there. I'm going to hold that tight, and with my fingers, I'm going to just lift that up. So now my dangle will be hanging down in the front. So I'm going to add my little bead. My next bead. And my top bead. So now I have my two dangles. I'm going to hold this backwards now because I want my connection to be in the back. So I'm going to take my round nose pliers, bend a 90-degree angle, move it up to the top part, and then using my fingers and the pliers, I want to wrap that around. So I'm making a loop. So you can see there's a loop. I'm not going to close it all the way. I'm going to come over to my bottom hole, attach it, and now I can take my pliers and bring that all the way down. So now I have a dangle. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to turn it backwards, make a 90-degree angle, move it up to the wider area, use my fingers to help bring it around, attach it, and then now bring that down to close the loop. And you want your loops tight so it doesn't fall out. So now I have 2 little dangles. I have used the copper and the brass, so I'm going to use, instead of using the gold jump ring, I'm going to use a copper colored jump ring. I had already opened it by doing this motion. So I'm going to put that on. You want to be able to make sure that your end can fit through the jump ring and the puzzle piece. If it doesn't, if it's going to be too wide, what I would do is then attach this first before you close it up. I would go and put that on and then close it up. This is going to be big enough where I can take it on and off though, so I don't need to do that beforehand. So now I'm going to bring this up. Because I have them, I'm going to use the 2 tools. If you do not have them, again, you can use your finger. But I'm going to hold on to each end and then now wiggle it back and forth to make sure that that is a nice tight fit. I also like to squeeze it a little bit that way. These were necklaces that I got on Amazon that were already pre-made. So these are nice. All you have to do is string that on there. And now you have a really cute necklace. You can see with this one, because I used the head pins, you can see how those little pieces dangle at the bottom. With this particular piece, I used the wire and I attached my wire to the beads and brought them up. So this is basically one continuous piece of wire. But you can see with these, they don't dangle because it was the stiff wire. So if you want it to be stiff, then go ahead and use one continuous piece of wire and you can add them on that way. And then I just continued. You can see the back moving them around. I still did the little kinks. I also brought the wire, part of the wire up, twisted it around, and I made my bail that way. Twisted, brought it down, and then finished it by bringing the wire down and made a little curly Q. So you can make your bail like that yourself, or put in a jump ring to make your bail. And if you are going to glue things on, the easiest way, as I said, is taking your glue stick. I like to push it up just a little bit. Take your piece. You can either have a scrap piece of paper lying around for bigger pieces such as this. But you want to make sure you get it all on both ends. Or you can just hold the piece and drag it across your top. But you just want to really make sure you've got glue on and simply glue it on. If you would like, you could cover this with Mod Podge once everything is on and it's dried. If you're doing multiple words, I have not done that. yet with these. I still may put some Mod Podge on there, even though I went through and beaded. What I would do, if you know you're going to do that, like for this piece, I have all my words on, I will Mod Podge over that and then do the beads. I am going to turn this one, I just have it taped with a little piece of tape right now to hold them together. But what I am going to do is I'm going to turn this into a pin, and you can see they sell pin backs. So once I put my beads on, I'll take that piece of tape off, and then I am going to glue that right to the back. And then that's a great way to be able to make pins. So again, have some fun with the words, the pictures. I loved the mouth part that was showing. Just, see what words speak to you. My little secret. How fun is that? So have some fun with cutting out words, putting things together, dangling. And again, if you did not want to turn this into jewelry, but you still wanted to embellish them, go ahead and embellish it. And then take your puzzle pieces, connect them together. That can either be a hanger, or again, if you connect it, it can be a bookmark. So if wearing it is not your thing, turn it into a bookmark or a hanger. So you can see how quick and easy this is. You can really make a unique piece with not a lot of time, but it will be a great conversation starter, special for you, and it gets to let you recycle puzzle pieces that you may have, especially if you have some that you've lost a couple puzzle pieces and you're not going to be able to do that puzzle again. This is a great way to use up some of the pieces from that. So I hope you had fun. This is Crafting with Kimberly, Kimberly Canale. See you next time.